Hey guys, what's going on? I'm Ben Bateman.
I'm Andrew Guy.
And we are
The Action
Guys.
The Action Guys.
Tried something different again.
Yeah, that
It was like
good.
a retread.
Yep. I was going to not acknowledge it.
Cool.
Here we are.
It
was a very good entrance. It was a nominated, award-winning entrance.
Award-winning. Maybe one of the best entrances of the decade.
Speaking of that, I just got all of our nominations for the Schmoedown Awards.
The Movie Trivia
Just
Schmoedown.
saw every single one of them.
Are the nominations released?
The nominations are in.
Really?
The nominations are in.
Holy
but
smokes.
That is
I'm distracted.
That's not why we're here. What we're here for is, we realized that an episode. Hi, we're the Action Guys. This is what we do.
That's what we do.
It's a show. We talk about movies. We realized a couple weeks ago when we did our top movie of every year of the decade, people love that episode. They love putting together their own list. There was a ton of interaction. Last week we decided to talk about DC, and we also learned from that.
That was a mistake also.
we knew it was going to be painful, and I don't care how many people tell you they don't read the comments. We read the comments.
Yeah, and let me tell you guys something. So when the video is 45 minutes long, and it's been on the internet for 12 minutes, and your comment is a thumbs down and that you hate the video, it's not physically possible that you watched or listened to the video, and we know that.
Yeah.
So you're revealing yourself as a troll when you do that.
But fair enough, I may thumbs down our video and talk shit after watching our intro.
That's fair. That's a fair point. That's a fair point.
They might have not even cared about DC.
You're making a strong point.
So anyway, what we decided to do, because we enjoyed that conversation, we thought you guys enjoyed the conversation, was that we figured we'd get our top 25 movies of the decade minus 2019.
Yes. It doesn't feel appropriate to talk about 2019 movies as the best of the decade yet. And I think it's because, I don't know, there's like a recency bias thing when you try to decide where does a movie land on your list, how good was it, where do you rank it. It's just so much easier to do once you've had some time to reflect, because I think a lot of our opinions, and this is something I can be honest about, is number one, you're informed by your experience. When you watch the movie, the way it made you feel. But here's the thing. That's personal experience, and it's relatively subjective, because if you're in a shitty mood when you sit down to see the movie, sometimes you can feel worse about it.
Or if you're in a horrible theater experience. In a quiet place and everyone's loud and talking.
If, you watch My Blue Valentine and you've just gone through a horrific breakup or divorce, that movie might be too painful to watch, and you might not like it. Like, there's a lot to it. It's like, again, we'll use the example of Infinity War. It's one of the biggest movies ever made, right? We love Infinity War.
Yeah.
If you're somebody who comes into the MCU, you've never seen any MCU movie, and you watch Infinity War, that movie's going to seem like a bunch of green screen nonsense to you, probably.
Probably. I mean, my girlfriend had never seen Infinity War, any of the Marvel movies, and when she saw Infinity War and Endgame, she watched them back-to-back because we got a chance to go to the screener. She loved Infinity War.
Okay.
And she could tell it was a better movie than Endgame, in her opinion. And I was pretty impressed by that, because I thought it was going to be a lot of what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So this list it's not our favorites, but it is definitely influenced a bit by how much we enjoy watching a movie. But we also always talk about, if a movie's great, if a movie's a very good movie, you want to go and watch it again. Now, obviously, there's going to be movies on lists that you don't want to watch again, and you still know that they're great. But if a movie is very good and you want to keep watching it over and over, you have to just apply that to the list, and it's going to climb. It's going to be higher on our list than on others.
I think, and then the last sort of piece of what I'm talking about is that, some of the kind of conversation when you talk about the greatest anything is informed by other people who do similar things to you.
Right.
You have to trust other experts, other people whose opinions are formed in the same space, which is how you end up with things like, all these years later, the world finally acknowledging that Zodiac is a masterpiece, even though Zodiac at the time received a lot less love than some of the other David Fincher movies have. We can all acknowledge Zodiac is amazing. If you watch Zodiac today, it seems like a travesty that somehow people missed it at the time. But at the time, that year, Zodiac was not considered to be the best David Fincher movie or the best of the year, and would not have made a top 10 for most people of that year.
Yeah, there's a lot of times when movies are kind of ahead of their time, and it felt like Zodiac was maybe ahead of its time, or the audience just was not ready. So we're the Action Guys. You can find us on Twitter at Team Action Show. You can find him at Ben Bateman Media. You can find me at Andrew Guy. You can also find us on Instagram at Action Industries. You are probably watching this full video, Collider Live, which is phenomenal. We've been back on video with them for about a month now. We've been loving seeing the views, the interaction, and it's also just nice. We do enjoy being on video quite a bit. That's what we're used to doing.
I mean, look, the bottom line is there's a lot of interaction when we do that. There's the comments. You know, last week's episode had like almost 200 comments, even though some of them are hateful. It's still fun for us to be able to see that and see what people think and be able to respond and interact. And so we appreciate that, and that's why being on video is so much fun for us. But he mentioned Action Industries. You can find us everywhere. You can follow me at Ben Bateman Media. This is something I meant to talk about this on the last episode. Social media is an important thing. It is. Unfortunately, for those that hate social media, I know you're one of those people.
I'm not a big fan.
Twitter and Instagram and these places, they matter. You know, your subscriber count, all things like that. That's kind of how you grow. And I went into this year wanting to get to 10,000 Twitter followers, and I wanted to get to 4,000 on IG. And I'm not far from either. I need about 170 Twitter followers or something like that to hit 10,000.
Oh, that's nothing.
Yeah, and I think I need like 100 and about the same to hit 4,000.
Let's do it. Let's get Ben Bateman there.
I wanted to hit those things. If you're listening to this and you've never done it, but you can find me at Ben Bateman Media on all the places. I'm going to be petitioning. I should have done it on last night's stream, too. I'm an idiot.
Yeah, last night's stream was a good one.
Forgotten.
It's a good one. And YouTube is another place you can find us, youtube.com/Action Industries. We do live streams there. We do First Thought movie reviews. We're going to be doing a First Thought movie review of The Rise of Skywalker tomorrow. And I think that's enough social plugs. Let's get into the list. First of all, we got some honorable mentions, and remember, this is our list that we constructed collaboratively. It's not his or mine.
And it's tough, actually.
It really is.
We came to blows. We came to blows over several.
We did. There was just a couple movies there where, you know, your own personal opinion is you just fight for it.
Yeah,
you really do.
Yeah, so the honorable mentions that don't make the movie, make the list: Zero Dark 30, Arrival, and Nightcrawler. And then the most important honorable mention, because it really is more about the quality, it's not about the quality, it's more about the achievement, is Boyhood. Some people have Boyhood as the best movie of the decade because of what it did, the fact that it's filmed like the way it's filmed. Boyhood's a really impressive movie. It's not a movie I've really felt compelled to watch again.
Yeah, and I remember most of the time when I watched it, I was just more so kind of just struck by what I was seeing happen, like unfold on film, not really the story that they were telling or even the performances, which were good. And then with Arrival, it's tough because you and I love this movie a lot, and I love the twist. I love everything about it. The performances are amazing. It's incredibly compelling, but it just doesn't feel like it belongs on the list.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be surprised if any one of the four movies we just talked about, if I was to rewatch tomorrow.
And they just go right up.
Yeah, but that's, you know, you can't watch every single movie every couple years. There's too many movies. So we're going to jump into number 25. This is the only... Well, it's one of two split movies on the list.
But this one's split because Ben and I could not decide what 25 would be. I personally wanted Dallas Buyers Club.
Yeah, love Dallas Buyers Club. Think it's great. Think it's pretty performance-driven. On the other side of the coin is the film that is also very performance-driven, I would vote for, and that is The Master.
Yeah, we both kind of decided that while the stories that are kind of told in the movies are interesting, it's really about Philip and Joaquin, and then, of course, Jared and Matthew. And that's why we were okay with splitting it down the middle, because it was like, well, this is a performance-driven piece. Well, so is this one, and they're both amazing.
You talk about The Master, it's a very similar conversation to the one I was just having about Zodiac. It's one of those movies for people where it feels like in the years since, most sort of high-level, very intellectual film critics will agree that it's like the best movie of the decade, or at least the best movie of the year. It seems to be on that list a lot. I don't think the movie is as cohesive as people want to try to convince themselves it is.
I definitely don't think so either. I think the stories kind of falls apart a little bit, and there's definitely some uncomfortable moments in there, but it's because the performances are so good from the two of them.
Yes, incredible performances. So that's number 25. We will have to be relatively quick about these because we don't have a lot of time. There's a lot of movies here. So number 24, we'll be quick on, is Carol. We talked about it, on last week's episode, 2 weeks ago. It was on my 2016. It was my number 2 movie of that year. Love Carol. It's a Todd Haynes film. It's a beautiful movie. It's got one of my favorite scores ever by Carter Burwell. And if you guys have never seen Carol, it's brilliant. Kate Blanchett and Rooney Mara are both amazing. It's just a damn good movie.
Yeah, and I'm okay putting it on the list because even though I have not seen it, I've seen scenes from it from studying from acting class, and also you just rave about this movie. Yeah, you love it.
I saw it this year for the first time.
So. Really?
Yeah.
And I trust your judgment pretty well. So Carol's 24. At 23, we're going to go back a little bit to Interstellar.
Don't let me leave, Murph.
Don't let me leave, Murph.
Don't let me leave.
I mean, you've got Peake McConaughey, who is just killing it, crushing it. Every word that comes out of his mouth, you're just hanging on. You just want him to speak, say more things. I am thinking about my family and millions of other families.
What? Why does he have his hand like that?
I don't care. And then the visuals of the water planet.
No, I can't.
No, wait. Oh, yeah. The driving and crying. The relationship between him and his daughter in this movie is incredible, but the performance that he gives when he's sitting in the chair after the water planet, when they've already been gone for a decade or whatever it is, that scene, acting-wise, is just unbelievable.
It's unbelievable. Yeah, this movie's really underrated. We all can agree Matt Damon didn't need to be in it.
The score is your favorite movie score of all time.
Yeah, you know, what's funny about that is I looked on a list the other day of the top movie scores of the decade, and I think movie score is a pretty esoteric conversation. There's a few people that I know that like to talk about it. Most people, though, they don't pay any attention to that. The ones that I listen to endlessly were all in the top 5.
Good.
How weird is that?
I mean, no, it makes sense.
Coincidental, right? Like, I mean, not coincidental, but like, if you're somebody who listens to that stuff, we all hear the same shit. The one that really blew my mind was there's a track from If Beale Street Could Talk called A Gape.
Oh, yeah, you've told me
That's like the most beautiful thing I've ever heard, and that was the number 3 movie on the list.
And no one talks about it.
Yeah, I mean, only nerds that talk about movie scores, but like Social Network and Social Network and Interstellar, those are all like the top choices, you know?
Yeah, and I think the last thing to say about Interstellar is what the ability of what he's able to do with the fourth dimension at the end of the movie, and kind of the time travel. It's pretty incredible that you're even able to understand what he's trying to convey.
Or is it the fifth dimension?
I think it's the fifth dimension.
And
the fact that he's even able to put that into a visual that you can even remotely understand is an incredible achievement.
Yeah, number 23, a favorite movie of both of ours. Definitely.
Or 22.
Yeah, 22. And that's Prisoners. Now, this movie is relevant for a couple reasons for people. The first of which is that it's directed by Denis Villeneuve, who is right now. He directed Arrival. He directed Sicario. He directed Blade Runner 2049.
And Dune is
Dune coming out.
The most massive cast you've ever seen.
You know, and he's well respected. It's probably my favorite Hugh Jackman performance. You know, or close to it. It's one of his best. It's got a Gyllenhaal performance that stands.
Yeah, I mean, he's amazing. Melissa Leo is amazing.
Yeah,
and she's just weird and eerie and creepy, and it's written really well. I mean, this is definitely one of the ones where, you know, this movie's probably not on as many people's lists as it is on ours, but we love Hugh, we love Jake, and we love good crime dramas, and this is good.
This is as good of a crime drama as I can think of. It's a damn fine movie.
And Paul Dano, so good.
Now, speaking of crime dramas,
yes, 21 is Wind River, which is probably my favorite crime drama of late. It just is. I've seen it maybe 10 times since it's come out. I don't think many people will look at this movie again or give a second look at this movie because, I mean, you got an incredible story written by Taylor Sheridan, and it's directed by
it's directed by Sheridan.
It's the first one he wrote and directed, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Wrote and directed. And there's moments there where you realize why he's paired so well with these other directors, like in Sicario.
Yeah.
You know, you're like, oh, see, that's the moment right there where a great director takes amazing writing.
Yeah.
And there's moments in Wind River where you feel like maybe if a better director, maybe that movie blows up, maybe it wins Oscars.
Yeah.
It's talked about more on that level. But I love it. It's compelling. It's interesting. The way they give the reveal and you know, what actually happened is it throws you for a loop.
Totally.
And Renner's subtlety is out of this world.
Yeah, and Elizabeth Olsen is terrific in this movie. It's a really, really good movie. I mean, Wind River is highly underrated. I would say probably Wind River is probably the most underrated movie on this list. There's almost no movies on this list that would just be on ours.
Right.
In fact, looking at this, it's probably the only movie in our top 25 that I have not seen on anyone else's top 25 list.
Yeah, that makes sense. It really does.
Because it would be Sicario and Hell or High Water both get rated above this for people. The other two Taylor Sheridan movies. Which
is weird because we like this one the
Wind
most.
River's the best, yeah. Coming in at number 20, an incredibly difficult movie to watch.
Yeah.
12 Years a Slave, Best Picture winner 2013, directed by Steve McQueen. 2014 it wins for the 2013 release. You know, produced by Brad Pitt. It's also has Brad Pitt in it.
Yeah, you got an all-star cast. I think this is where Lupita showed everyone that she was like, I'm going to be around, and I'm going to win awards for a long time.
Yeah, she wins an Oscar for this. You've got Chiwetel Ejiofor and a breakout performance. I mean, he had been really good for a decade before this, but
and you've got Fassbender in one of the most despicable roles maybe in film history.
Yeah,
period. You just hate him.
He's the worst. You have a huge cast. Cumberbatch is in this movie.
It's just really hard to go back and watch.
It's a sad movie on a lot of levels. It's heartbreaking when when Ejiofor realizes what's happened and he's talking to everybody. He's kind of like, no, these men, they hired me for my music, and there has to be a mistake. And he's realizing that he just was tricked.
as he's saying it, and just the whole journey, like seeing the beginning to the end, and like what actually happens to him at the end of the movie is not really a movie. I feel like we just haven't gotten a great film about slavery that was this intense in just a little while, because it always happens, right?
Yeah.
Like every few years another one will come along that just blows your mind.
Right.
And this was our decade's film, I think.
Yeah, it's also
there was also like The Help and stuff that came out, but those
weren't
as respected.
A little different, but for sure, still dealing with sort of the subject of race, and you go back to like The Color Purple, and it's a subject. I mean, I think the thing about it is like it's hard to really frame how embarrassing and appalling the idea that slavery happened in our country actually is. It's a part of history now, so we talk about it as this matter-of-fact thing, like that happened, and then the slaves were freed, and it's like, but this was real people in real life. This was actually just happening, the same as I'm sitting across from you. Like,
right.
That was
just as normal as it was.
You is what was happening. And that's an insane thing.
And with Django having the nice moments of redemption that you get, there's not really many moments of redemption in this movie, because this movie is just what it was.
Yeah.
So we love 12 Years a Slave. Very difficult to watch, and that's our number 20. Number 19, a complete 180.
Yeah.
In Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah. This one's hard because how many superhero and movies in the genre do you put on a list like this?
Right.
Obviously, in the digital nerd space, we have a lot of conversations about this stuff, so it's tempting to put a lot. Guardians is a success for a number of reasons. It's got one of the great soundtracks. Amazing soundtrack.
Amazing soundtrack. I mean, you have Chris Pratt blowing up in the next stratosphere. And you look at everyone else's careers as well. I mean, look at Batista. Look at what he's doing now. It's insane.
I also think Batista as Drax he's like one of my favorite performances. It's like one of my favorite comic performances ever. He's incredible.
He's arguably the best cast person in the MCU just for that. I mean, obviously Evans is a perfect Captain America, but how hard is it to cast someone like Drax?
Yeah, he's flawless. It's amazing. It also, just like we've said this before, but the fact that it works, and that Marvel
the chance that they took
could actually, and then it became like, all right, sure, we'll make the Suicide Squad. But like they had tried to make the Losers and other movies, like team movies with like a bunch of outcasts. Like this one just is a classic.
I had no interest in watching it, had no idea what the story was or why they were making another superhero movie. I remember being so pleased when I walked out of the theater. And every time since, I mean, even just the opening, when you see Guardians of the Galaxy and he's dancing through there, and hey, and you're just like, okay, hell yes, totally. I'm in.
I know, the movie works in the first 5 minutes, which is a very impressive feat.
Yeah.
Moving up to number 18, we have a sports film, Creed, obviously. It's my favorite Rocky movie.
Yeah.
I think if I'm going to rank all the Rockies,
it's like Rocky and this.
You give it to Rocky because it's the OG, but I love Creed. It's my favorite Stallone performance, period.
There's so many great lines in this movie that get to both of us. Stallone obviously gets the nomination, and we talk about people blowing up into the next stratosphere. I mean, this was another huge moment for Michael B.
Yeah. Massive. Again, you think Creed, you think how are they going to do this? And it's funny because Creed 2 ends up feeling like you imagined Creed might feel.
Yeah.
It's like Creed 2 is interesting, but it's kind of a derivative. It's like it's utilizing a lot of like the older pieces, and it's really enjoyable. I liked Creed 2 a lot, but it feels so much more like a Rocky sequel.
It feels a lot like the way that Rocky 3 felt when you got that after 1 and 2, whereas Creed felt like just Rocky. It felt like a great drama with some boxing in it.
Yeah, it just works on every level. Number 17, Best Picture winner from 2016 for films released in 2015, Spotlight.
Yeah, just wow.
Yeah.
Just incredibly compelling.
Spotlight's interesting because it, to me, represents now the world we live in. When you get to this part of the year, this season, Oscar movies, Oscar billboards, people talking about a movie. You haven't even heard of the movie existing until the minute that it exists,
and then Spotlight was that. For me,
sure. And you know that like at the highest level, like we hear about stuff so much differently now, but like I remember seeing a billboard for Spotlight and being like, "Oh, what's that movie?"
Keaton and Bale and Ruffalo and what?
I was like, "What's that movie?" And then I think I saw a trailer for Spotlight, and I was like, "Oh, I wonder if that movie will be good." And then it's like, and it won Best Picture. It was the same way with Shape of Water, exact same thing.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, when I heard about Spotlight and I heard that it won Best Picture, and I was just like, "Come on,
right?
Like, give me a break, dude. This is exactly what you expect. Bunch of white dudes talking in rooms about something that happened in history, but you go and you watch it. It is incredible."
I think when movies...
Wait, not Bale. I don't know why I said Bale.
Ruffalo, do you mean?
Yeah, no, I said Ruffalo. I said 3 people.
Keaton, Ruffalo.
I said Bale, though.
Rachel McAdams.
Yeah, but he's not in it.
No.
He's in The Big Short.
Who are you thinking?
There's no one else. But yeah, it was just so good. It was like when I watched Steve Jobs the first time, and I turned it on and I expected to want to turn it off after 10 minutes, and then 2 hours went by.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, and I love there's a lot of great casting in that movie. I think Billy Crudup, obviously, as the kind of crooked lawyer, is terrific. I really like Liev Schreiber as the editor of the Boston Globe a lot.
I love Liev Schreiber.
He's great. Anyhow, I love Spotlight. One thing I was going to say is that anytime a movie wins Best Picture, but the director doesn't win Best Director, it's a wildly inconsistent experience.
Yeah.
Like you never know what to expect out of the movie, because like this movie is a terrific example where Inarritu wins Best Director for The Revenant, but this wins Best Picture. You go back to Shakespeare in Love winning Best Picture, but Spielberg winning, and it's like, yeah, I don't know about that.
Yeah.
Go back to Crash winning Best Picture and Ang Lee winning Best Director, and it's like, I don't know about that.
No, and the directing in this was so good, and especially for a guy that doesn't have a big career. His name is Tom McCarthy. For someone that doesn't have a huge career like that, to be able to control those, like to drive and focus those performances.
It's really interesting that we talk about the movies of people talking in rooms, and you don't need to be the most adept director to pull those movies off.
No.
To pull them off is the point.
To pull them off.
So Scott Z. Burns did a movie this year called The Report that I really liked.
Oh, yeah.
And I think it'll probably get some Oscar nominations, smaller stuff. I'll bet you it gets a writing nomination. Really good movie, really enjoyable. Doesn't hold a candle to Spotlight. A different experience. I watched Margin Call a couple years ago. It's a J.C. Chandler movie from 2010 about the financial crisis, and it's another one where it's a good enough director, a good script, a really good script. And those movies succeed or fail based on the quality of the director, as long as they have a good enough script, because it's just by the numbers if you don't have a creative director.
And the 3 are like Spotlight, The Big Short, and Steve Jobs. I feel like
Social Network.
Well, yeah, but Social Network that's different.
Yeah,
it's in a different class.
Yeah, agreed.
So next up at number 16, we have Gone Girl.
David Fincher, incredible movie. Some would call it a horror movie. It's
definitely terrifying.
Yeah, it's a thriller.
Rosamund Pike's best performance in her career, hands down. You got Ben Affleck doing a really good job of being kind of hateable, but also you kind of feel bad for him.
He's sort of perfect. We talked about this a little bit a couple weeks ago, but he's sort of perfect because he has to be hateable, right? He has to be somebody you think might be guilty, but you have to be able to believe him on either side. You can't know one way or another if he's guilty.
And you're just kind of a dumbass, aren't you?
Yeah.
Like that's kind
selfish.
of yeah, and it's and then just the story itself. Like when you just like look at this all written out and you take all the turns in the plot and you talk about each plot turn and each moment, even NPH.
Yeah.
Just like the visuals stick with you from that. And
did you just call Neil Patrick Harris NPH for the first time?
No.
You've been doing that for years?
Oh yeah.
His name is Neil.
It's NPH.
You can call him Patty if you want.
Yeah, I don't know, man. That movie is when it ends, you feel like you want to take a shower.
Yes, I think it's a highly underrated movie because people talk about it like it's this like messed up thriller, but like I don't think people acknowledge that any genre you're working in at all. If you make an incredibly watchable movie, like a super watchable movie, it's hard to do. You can make a bad thriller, you can make a medium thriller, you can make a great thriller. This is a great thriller. It's like as good of a thriller as I can think of. I find this movie to be unbelievably rewatchable.
And of course, just Fincher and his directing and the shots that you get, the magic that he does. Next up, another incredible director, Wolf of Wall Street, Martin Scorsese.
Yeah, we talked about this a bunch. This was my number 1 movie of 2013. I remember we had our list a couple weeks ago, and it's a really long movie. It's got so much comedy. It's such an unhinged movie. Like it's crazy how. Can you think of another movie where Leo gets to go like this crazy?
It just feels so unlike him and unlike Scorsese and like what they'd been doing and like what they are doing. And it was so refreshing. And you got Margot Robbie popping up and just falling in love. And you had Jonah Hill be like, holy shit, you can really act. And he's the best part of the movie. He's the best part, hands down.
His teeth.
Yeah, his teeth, his stories, his accent, like it was just one of those things. You're like, wow, look at this story that, like, let's say Mick G or someone gets it instead.
Yeah, right,
or like
right,
Fuqua. And they just make it so, because there's so many dick and fart jokes in it, but they somehow still seem highbrow.
It's a weird movie for Leo to have done. It's a strange movie for Scorsese to have directed.
Yeah.
It does feel like it's the modern day sort of version of Goodfellas, though.
Right.
It like has so many similar elements, but it's like it's another lifestyle that you're glorifying of just like a bunch of pieces of shit, basically.
And that's like what a lot of those cliche quotes you hear about. It's like the criminals aren't on the streets; they're at the stock exchange.
Yeah, right.
They're at the big banks.
Yeah, I'm the biggest fan of this movie. I think it's so good. One thing I heard, they did this movie on the Rewatchables pretty recently, actually, like a couple weeks ago, and they said that Brad Pitt was in contention for Jordan.
I love that.
Do you think he could have done it?
Yeah, oh yeah, I do.
I think it's a great movie with Brad Pitt doing that also.
Yeah, I think so. I don't know if it's better or not, but I think he could have pulled it off.
Yeah, Leo brings something to the movie that I think is surprising.
I just like when Leo gets like pricky. There's something that's more like enjoyable to watch Leo be pricky and pissed than it is to watch Brad Pitt be that way. I think.
Yeah, yeah.
Brad Pitt's cooler.
Leo plays shithead that cheats on his wife in this movie as well as anyone has ever played that.
And his wife. Like the most beautiful woman ever.
Yeah, it's incredible.
For some reason it's better with him. So next up, I think this is the movie where you go, that's on no one else's list.
I don't know about that.
Really? Was it on?
I don't know about that. I didn't see it on any top 100 lists, but I did see this as the #1 comedy of the decade on Collider's own list, and that is MacGruber.
God, I love MacGruber.
MacGruber is a movie that I saw for the first time with you. I went over to your house when we were working at a bar 5 years ago, 6 years ago. Like 6-7 years ago, probably.
Yeah, that was a long time ago.
You got me really stoned.
Real stoned. Most stoned you've ever been in your life.
Dabbed. What's that called?
Dabbed. Yep.
Wax.
Yep.
I had like a panic blackout.
You did. You freaked out. You got the shivers, the chills, the sweats.
But I did get to watch MacGruber. and I loved it. And I've seen MacGruber a lot of times over the years now. You and I got to do a live episode of The Action Guys in New York with a personal message from Will Forte to the audience.
That was so. I actually went back and watched that message the other day because I was cleaning up my Google Drive, and it's just the coolest thing that Will Forte shouted out. Action Industries, The Action Guys live. He showed us the notebook.
It's amazing.
The KFBR 392 notebook, he flips through it. So that, I mean, it's got a special place in our hearts. It's also just so hilarious.
It's hilarious. I really wanted. I was fighting for Popstar Never Stop Stopping on this list, but I couldn't convince you. So MacGruber though I think is pretty well understood as an amazing movie. Number 13, we've got one of the great performances of the decade.
Yeah,
and that's J.K. Simmons starring in Whiplash.
It was like one of those moments. It's the same thing that kind of happened to Richard Jenkins a few years before that, where it felt like this guy, putting in decades worth of work, finally got the role.
Yeah, it's like you couldn't have written a role that fit J.K. what he was capable of better.
No,
and that role, if played by anyone else, doesn't feel like it's as good.
And he was so yoked.
I also watch every once in a while, like on Facebook, it'll pop up like from page to screen. Have you ever seen that series?
Oh,
it shows the thing
yes,
scrolling and it plays the thing. And I've seen this one because it keeps cutting back from the page, not quite my tempo, dragging, like all the things. And it's like the tension that they build in Whiplash, that Damien Chazelle builds in that movie. It was the second movie. It's his first major movie.
Yeah.
You could show that scene as a clinic of like, you want to build tension as a young director, this is how you do it.
Yeah.
Watch how fast this scene gets out of hand.
And like how fast it gets out of hand and how justified it feels in the moment. He throws a fucking easel at him. He could have killed him.
Doesn't throw a cymbal at him?
He throws a chair at him.
A
stool or something.
Yeah.
He's like, he could have killed him. It's just so good. And I love that he's so like, it's just, no. And then he just loses tempo. Then he's gone.
Also, I think the thing about Whiplash that's so special is in America, we grow up with sports coaches, legendary sports coaches that have this tough love philosophy. And that's what they push and they push and they push. Your high school friends that would pass out because they took 3-a-days and shit, right? Like, you've heard these stories. And these coaches, and then the teams win championships sometimes, like, well, it was justified.
Right.
To do that and show that in a movie about music is what's so cool about this movie, because it's approachable to a different audience than just your classic sports drama is.
And this is pulled from real life. There's stories about plenty and plenty of instructors in music conservatories because it's so intensely competitive.
Yeah.
That this is not that far fetched from things. I read a lot about it.
Yeah.
And I just thought, it was so good. And also Miles Teller is incredible in this. And then the beginning, the breakup.
Yeah.
That scene's great.
Yeah. With him, wait, the breakup.
Him and the girl when he tells her not the one from Social Network, the one from him when he's telling her that he's like, I just can't see you anymore. He's like, I have to pursue music. When
and then he sees her later,
and he tries to ask her back out.
And
she has a boyfriend.
Like, yeah, right.
Those scenes are great between him and the girl.
That's so interesting. I forgot the parallel of that.
Yeah.
They are kind of similar.
I knew
right?
as soon as I said it, you're going to go to
Social Network. That's what I thought you were talking about. And
yeah.
it's a different actress. It's Benoist versus Rooney Mara. Yeah. So funny. All right. So moving on to number 12, you've got the. I mean, this is I think of the movies left on the list, this is the current most loved movie.
It's so goddamn good,
and it's Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
I can't get enough of it. I keep going
only
back
saw
and
it the
watching
once.
it.
Only saw it the once. Still, I liked it a lot. I don't know. It didn't. I mean, I think it's amazing, and it belongs at number 12. It doesn't feel to me in the way that it feels to other people, but maybe I need to watch it again.
And it feels to me the way that I don't think it feels almost wrong for me to love it as much as I do because I'm not a diehard Spider-Man fan. I love him, but I'm not. I love this movie from the voice casting of Pine to Cage to Jake. What's his name? Jake, the guy that does the main Spider-Man in the movie. Jake something.
Oh, you're talking about the guy who does Shameik Moore, the main guy?
No, the main the older Spider-Man.
Oh, Peter B. Parker.
Yeah, Peter B. Parker.
Is it? Yeah, I think I know who you're talking. Is it Jake?
Jake.
The guy is it Jake?
Jake
from
Johnson?
He's the guy from Tag.
From Tag, yeah.
And also The Mummy, right?
Yes. I love him. I think he's a perfect cast for it, and also I don't think I can ever get enough of Haley.
Yeah,
Haley Steinfeld is just amazing.
Spider-Gwen. It's a great movie. I mean, it's a movie that I really enjoyed, and I should watch it again. It's number 12. And I mean, the animation, the music, unbelievable. Number 11, highest Pixar movie on our list, Inside Out.
Yeah, the only Pixar movie on our list, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The big popular one, spoiler, is Toy Story 3 didn't make our list.
I know.
We both like Toy Story 3 a lot. I think that movie's fantastic.
Yeah, and I went back and watched it pretty recently, and I definitely teared up at the end when they're all watching him leave and stuff. But I don't know. Inside Out felt like a genius level of filmmaking.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. I think Inside Out feels like it's one of the smartest, most sort of brilliant concepts, because you think about Inside Out and you think about us 31-year-old people now, and that movie coming out in 2015, and late 20s, we appreciate that. We're growing, right? But think about watching this movie at 10.
Yeah.
10 years old. And think about taking your kid to see this movie and what this movie can teach your kid.
Yes, about dealing with your
emotions and the way your head works and your memories and your relationship with your family, and it's such a beautiful and incredible idea to teach a child about joy, anger, disgust, sadness,
and nostalgia, and understanding nostalgia, and understanding things in your life. Your islands are going to change as you get older, and things that used to be important are not anymore. And it feels sad, but that's the way life. Bing Bong.
Yeah,
Bing Bong.
One of the saddest things ever.
One of the saddest things ever.
I imagine watching this movie if I was 8 years old, 10 years old, and then seeing this movie 10 years later, and probably the way it would make me feel, how thankful I would be that I saw this as a kid.
And you would also feel like you're watching a different movie.
Yeah.
So that's our Pixar movie at number 11. Now we're in the top 10, the nitty gritty, and number 10 here, maybe a surprise to you guys, but not if you've watched us for the last year and a half. Love, Simon.
Love, Simon's the first studio film, first studio coming of age movie with a gay character in the lead. It's and you've got Nick Anderson, right?
I think so.
And he's the lead. He's the annoying older brother from Jurassic World. Gets his own movie here, and he's amazing. He's fantastic.
Everyone's so good in this.
The cast is so good. Everybody's so good in this movie. The parents are fantastic. It has a very John Hughesy kind of feel to it, but there's also a lot of it's told through these emails that are being written back and forth with him, an unknown pen pal, and those voiceover emails,
and who he's speculating it could be.
It just really gets you into the story. I don't know. This is another movie where I think about watching this if I was in high school, if I was 15, and the way this movie would make me feel.
And I just can't imagine what it's like if you are a gay male in high school and this movie comes out, what that means to you, because obviously I'm straight, but when I watched this movie I felt like they had kind of romanticized and told a story that no one had done before in a way to where you would look at it and you'd be like, oh my God, I'm just like this.
Yeah.
Like, this is just like any love story that I want to be a part of.
It's like right now to us, at, again, 31 years old, living in Los Angeles in the entertainment industry, if you had a friend who was your age and was like, hey, I'm gay and I've been, somebody like, let's just say somebody that was your friend who either said like, I am trans, I'm gay, a man, a woman, anything that they were concealing about their sexuality, their gender, you would say like, hey, it's okay. It's Los Angeles. Let's people love you. You have friends. It's accepted here. You can be open about it. And you would be right to say that.
Mm-hmm.
Being 16, 17 in high school, it is such a different experience.
It's so different.
People are so judgmental and such pieces of shit about it that like this movie is such a special example.
And you love to see it the way that all the people do react. The way his dad reacts, kind of like a dick, and he doesn't really know how to deal with it. The way his mom reacts, she's like, "Duh, I know, I love you." It feels like you can finally exhale.
The way his little sister reacts,
sister,
that one shatters my heart. She's so sad. He like yells at her,
so mean to her, and then the friend,
yeah,
she's just like, "Okay, cool,
yeah."
I still love you.
Yeah.
You know, it's just so good. I love Simon. If you guys have not seen it, I highly recommend. That's number 10 on our list. Next up at number 9 is
Bridesmaids.
Yes.
Bridesmaids has an Academy Award nomination for Melissa McCarthy. She is unbelievable. The whole movie's hilarious. I mean, Rose Byrne is amazing in this movie. Maya Rudolph.
I mean, it gets nominated for supporting and for screenplay. It's hilarious. It's Feige, right?
Not Feige.
Oh, no.
Paul Feig.
Feig, yeah. That's what I was trying to say.
Kevin Feige did
this movie? Of course he did. It's MCU, yeah. Paul Feig, and I think we've all kind of just got on board with the genius that he is, but this movie, the scenes, the intelligent humor and the bathroom humor, and the combination of both.
Yeah.
Kristen Wiig,
yeah. I mean, her hair, the stuff on the airplane is so good. What's your name? Stove. It's Steve.
It's not a real Stove.
It's not a real name.
Yeah, it's because it's Steve.
It's because it's Steve.
Yeah, and then just like Melissa McCarthy in the air marshal and Melissa McCarthy in the bathroom.
And it's just... It's endlessly hilarious. John Hamm is funny in this movie.
Oh, he is the best. He's the best douchebag ever.
And what's his name? The cop who's hilarious.
The cop.
Whose name I can never think of, but he's hilarious in everything. He's the guy that I interviewed this year.
You're not talking about her husband, are you?
No, on the green carpet. And I was...
I know what you're talking about. I can't remember his name.
I'm just... Chris O'Dowd. Chris O'Dowd. Yeah. And he's great. The movie's fantastic. Bridesmaids is as funny as it gets.
It really is. It's it's number 9.
It's also like again, we talked about it a little bit a couple weeks ago, but like you look at what movies are, what movies do, what they are asked to do, and an R-rated comedy starring primarily women to be Academy Award nominated, to get the kind of attention and have the lasting effect it has. You look at a movie like Booksmart coming out this year, and it's like you don't really get Booksmart without a movie like Bridesmaids.
And what's so funny is everyone's like, oh, it's just a bunch of girls doing dude humor. And it's like, no, dumbass. This is women doing what they think is funny.
Yeah.
And this is them being funny because they are funny.
Right, exactly.
It's fucking hilarious.
It's just that like the standards that have been created in our theaters and the people that pay for movies and make decisions lead us to believe that this is a unicorn. It's just as likely that every one of these movies would be as funny as this movie. It's just that this was the one that got the attention, and it's a hilarious movie. The other one I was thinking of was Girls Trip, which is really funny.
I still haven't seen Girls Trip.
Like Girls
really?
Trip. It's not as funny as Bridesmaids.
I watch them all now. I watched like The Spy Who Dumped Me recently.
How was that?
It was fine.
It was all right.
You know I love those movies.
Yeah.
All right, number 8 is our only other split, and it's because one of the movies came out in 2019. It's also because both the movies were filmed back to back over the course of a year, and that's Infinity War and Endgame.
Yeah, I mean, I think because this gets talked about so much, we can be pretty brief about this. The achievement that it represents at the end of 10 years of the MCU, the payoff, the quality of Infinity War as a standalone movie, all the payoffs of Endgame, it's the amount of money that it made. It's such an important piece of the
money
decade.
That was spent, what it did to everyone's careers, the fact that they ended a superhero movie with the bad guy winning.
Yeah,
everything. You guys know.
It's just the best.
Number 7, this is a movie that I fought pretty hard for. I know we both really loved it, but La La Land.
Yeah, I would have put La La Land a little lower on this list. I think I probably would have put it a little closer to 25th. But it is amazing. I adored this movie when I saw it. I don't think I would have put it at 25, but just lower on the list.
Yeah.
you know, I think you mentioned the artist's journey.
Yeah, there's not really any other movie that I can think that really encapsulates what it's like to be trying to fall in love and trying to find a career in Los Angeles in your late 20s, early 30s than this movie specifically.
Yeah, it is a really interesting example of that, because the truth of the matter is, like, as they're living their life, they're trying to have this like long distance thing because of its realities of travel. If you're going to be a hardworking person in the industry, and he's kind of selling out,
and he doesn't even realize he's selling out until
and she's going to give up, and he loves her, and it's about supporting each other because you know the struggle of the person you love, even if you're not going to end up together. Yeah. The final 7 or 8 minute like outro is probably one of the saddest things I've ever watched in my life.
Yeah, it really is, because they totally get you. Yeah, and there's so many people that say the movie's perfect if you take that out. I actually really like the ending, even though it breaks my heart. I think, you know, her breakdown outside the theater when no one comes to the show. But because here's the thing about that moment specifically. The breakdown outside the theater is like, what if I'm not good enough? It just hurts too much. I just want to leave. Yeah. That moment. But at the same time, the biggest role of her life came from doing that show because there was the casting director in the audience.
Right.
That is LA. That moment is LA. Yep. You want to give up because you failed at something, but you didn't know the most important person in the world was watching you. I understand picking apart the dancing and some of the singing from them, and I honestly don't think Emma Stone should have won Best Actress for this.
Yeah.
But I love this movie, and I can't think of another movie that made me cry as much in theaters, and I didn't know why.
Yeah. I've never watched it a second time. For a while, it just made me too sad to think about it, and then I don't know why. There's too many movies to watch everything more than once, as we mentioned. So, number 6, a movie that I have seen more than once. I've probably seen this movie like 5 times, and that's Logan.
One that you decided when we saw it last year, we were like, we can't put it on our list yet of like top 50, but now a year's passed. 2 years has passed.
2017,
and it's still just right up there.
I think it was early 2017. Wasn't it like a March movie or like a January movie?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a while. It's been almost 3 years since this movie came out. We talked about Prisoners. This probably is the best Hugh Jackman performance in my opinion.
Yeah, and like what they were able to do, talk about coming of age stories like On the Road. Patrick Stewart's incredible. Daphne Keane. I love this movie. I love it not for it being a superhero movie. I love for everything else about it.
I think the superhero stuff, when it starts to feel the most like a superhero movie, they're probably some of the moments that feel the weakest, actually.
Mm-hmm. Like with the kids and all their powers.
Yeah,
and stuff.
Some of that stuff, and there's some of the action, but like the parallels to it being a Western and how much Mangold sort of did this like throwback thing. It's a beautiful movie, and it also is a really unique example of what happens at the end of this run, this superhero era we've been in. When you take a story like this that you can make, you don't get a lot of stories like this that you're sort of allowed to do this to. And Jackman.
I mean, him going down. First of all, you can get Boyd Holbrook coming in early on, being like, "I'm a fan," and everyone in the theater's just like, "Yeah, me too,
me too, man." Yeah.
and then him dying at the end, and that's how that feels. And, there's no more guns in the valley, turning the T to the X, just beautiful.
Perfect. Yeah. I can't get enough of this movie. It's one of my 50 favorite movies of all time, I think.
Number 5, arguably a movie that should have maybe won Best Picture.
This is a movie that could be number 1 on the list, honestly, and some people might even argue it. Inception.
Yeah.
This is a movie. All the movies in the top here you've heard us talk about endlessly because we love all these movies. But, Inception, one of the most sort of visually impressive movies ever. A movie that really takes a concept and executes it at the highest level.
And something we talked about with Interstellar was just the ability to convey what you had written on paper, which I can't even imagine reading this on paper and trying to make any sense of it, and then being like, yeah, there's going to be 4 layers and 4 different time things and a clap and a song, and it's going to be playing through everything, and they're going to be falling in the bridge, and this guy's... The ability to execute that just showed you that Christopher Nolan is and always will be one of the greatest directors we will ever get.
Yeah. He just does... It's his most impressive movie, just in the sense that even the Batman movies, they are existing with Batman.
Yeah.
You go see them because of Batman, not because of Christopher Nolan. This is an original science fiction concept. And
in the middle of the Batman series.
And it's executed as well as any ever. Moving on to number 4 here. This is the number 1 movie for a lot of people.
Most people.
I would say this is the pretty consensus number 1 movie of the decade, and that is Mad Max Fury Road.
Second episode we ever did of AMA, first episode that ever got to over 1 million views. I said it was the greatest action movie ever made when I walked out of theaters.
Yeah, it's it's the highest rated action movie we have on this list. Pure action. It's it's a movie that exists based on visual narrative as opposed to some sort of voiceover or exposition. it gets to succeed in this way that very few movies ever have and ever will. The stunts are unbelievable. The performances are great. You get
visuals are just awesome.
Charlize.
Striking.
We spoke about Kristen Stewart just getting this Hollywood Critics Society Award or something.
I can't remember what it was.
For like Actress of the Decade. And we were trying to figure out like who would be Actress of the Decade. And it's like probably Charlize, feels like.
I feel like it is too. I mean, she kind of came back. She'd been gone for a while. She got Atomic Blonde. She got Mad Max Fury Road. Tully, you like Tully, didn't you?
Tully's really good.
Yeah.
I mean, Tully's great. She's in a
Young
ton.
adult.
She's in a ton of movies in the decade that are really impressive. And this is the movie that kind of this movie kind of like reinvented her action career in a way.
Yeah, because it's not like you ever thought Charlize wasn't a badass.
No,
you didn't think she wasn't a great actress.
But that's not
exactly.
But I wasn't about to. Right, like
I wasn't about to cast her in Mad Max Fury Road.
No,
as Furiosa,
and she's fucking shaves her head and has one hand, and she's
so like sexy and badass, and
she's amazing in that movie.
Yeah, I love
amazing
her.
in that movie. Number 3 movie on the list here, my favorite movie of all time.
Warrior.
Yeah, it's a Warrior.
We didn't put it at number 1, and I feel like that's almost all we need to say about it is that we did the service at least to not put it at number 1 for you guys.
Yeah, I mean Warrior is Gavin O'Connor. It's Tom Hardy and Joel Edgerton. It's a movie. It's the movie we've talked about the most in our life together.
100%.
I enjoy this movie more every time I watch it, and I truly do stand behind this movie being where it is. I truly think it's so underrated. The performances are so incredible. It's a pure sports movie, and it's the most enjoyable pure sports movie I can think of.
It recycles every cliche in the book, and they are executed just magnificently. Gavin and Anthony together as a team with this, and honestly, Joel and Tom, I don't think that you could have cast it better.
It's like I want to see them in a movie together again.
Same.
Roxy Stryer on Collider Live in this very studio called this the movie of the decade.
Really?
It's their number 1.
Yeah. I love how many people we've gotten on board with this
everybody's
movie.
on board.
Best.
Everybody loves Warrior
now. Number 2, the only horror movie on the entire list.
And that's Get Out.
Is Get Out.
Again, a lot of these top ones because we do a show about movies every week. You guys have heard us talk about. Get Out's an unbelievable movie. I've called it the most approachable film about race ever made. You look at 12 Years a Slave at number 20. Such a different approach to the subject of racism and oppression. Such a different type of movie. Get Out is so much more watchable.
It's just such a more contemporary take on what we see as the racism we experience now, as opposed to what we saw in 12 Years a Slave, and the fact that Jordan Peele is able to weave in amazing comedy, and the performances of this are incredible, and I mean, like Bradley Whitford and Catherine Keener, like the casting in this movie is absolutely
impeccable,
off the chain. Yeah, I love Get Out. I can't think of a movie that I've seen in so long that is so approachable to where even if you don't like horror movies, you have to watch Get Out.
Yeah, totally agree. I hope, because people have been talking about Us and Lupita, and I'm just hoping that as we continue to go forward, we get another brilliant master work out of Jordan Peele that's on that level.
Yeah,
it seems
Us was good.
Yeah, it was good. I mean, here's what I can say. 1917 right now is my favorite movie of the year, and it's the best thing that Sam Mendes has done since American Beauty, and it's possible it's better than American Beauty.
That's crazy.
So
20 years later.
That's the thing, is it sometimes takes a while. Some directors get 2.
Yeah.
Maybe he gets another.
And some directors get a bunch, like this next director and David Fincher.
The Social Network has been a favorite of ours, I think, for a while. Talk about there's certain movies that I think when one of us kind of champions, then the other one starts to kind of move up, and then it's like this.
It's like, all right, fine, I'll watch it again, and then it's like, oh my God, you're so right. Yeah. And you start talking about the moments, and I mean, from the score to the casting of Jesse Eisenberg to just every scene and line
is amazing.
And
it feels really like The Social Network is the movie that, like, it's the best movie of the decade. How did it not win Best Picture?
I know.
King's Speech is not on here, you guys will notice.
Yeah. And King's Speech is a good movie.
Really good movie.
But, the non-linear storytelling and the courtroom, it just, I don't know. There's not enough to say about it. We talk about it endlessly.
It's like the most enjoyable movie about people talking in rooms ever made.
And it makes you feel all the things that he's feeling.
Yeah.
You feel annoyed when he's annoyed. You feel anxious when he's anxious. You feel cool and excited and sexy when they want you to feel that way. Like when JT shows up, you feel like you have $1 billion company.
You're like, JT!
Yeah.
Yes!
Like, it's cool?
JT's on board.
$1 billion. You're
like,
oh, that is cool.
Eisenberg is such a fuck.
He is.
In the
scenes. That one scene where he talks about like what they do back at Facebook and what they're doing there.
Yeah.
And you have the smallest amount of my attention or whatever it is.
The minimum amount.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, watch if any of these movies that you guys have not seen on this list, go watch because you will love every single movie on this list.
And I'd say almost half the movies on this list, there's an episode of Action Movie Anatomy done about it over on the Popcorn Talk Network, show we've done for 5 years. So go and check that out. Let us know what your top 25 of the decade are. What are the most offensive picks on the list? What are some of the ones that you didn't think about, but when we said them, blew your mind and reminded you how much you loved them? We want to know down below in the comments section. As we said, we read them. We love to read most of them.
Yeah.
And hopefully the comments will be a little bit less toxic this week.
Looks like there's half these movies, 12 of these movies have AMAs on them.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. One more time, follow along with @Team Action Show, @Action Industries, everywhere else. You can find me at Ben Bateman Media. Get me up to this 10,000, guys. I want to do it. Come on. I want to get to 10,000 this year on Twitter and Ben Bateman Media, all the places. Hopefully you don't unfollow me for asking. And we'll be back. We'll be back in 2020.
Yeah, actually, I think this is the last episode of the year, so you guys enjoy your holidays, whatever you do celebrate, and we'll be back January 2nd, I believe, is what our good friend Wendy told us. So thank you guys for hanging out with us for another year, our first full year of the Action Guys, and we'll see you soon, 2020.
Happy holidays.
Bye, guys.